Back and then make sure it's live. Test, 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 test. Test, 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 test. Test, 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 test. Hey, folks, I'm your host, BKP, and it is time for, hey, good morning from Circuit World in Blue Ridge, Georgia. I moved over a little bit. We got the sun coming in. We're waiting to get what we call our shade there, the truck that we put in the window. So we're sorry we're going to have a little sunlight for a couple minutes here, but we always come to you live from Circuit World here in downtown Blue Ridge every Friday morning. We have Ask the Doc with Dr. William Whaley. Now, this is going to be... We have been doing COVID, I'm just going to say since March. We'll call it March. We've been doing COVID updates maybe since January. And this is going to be an interesting one because you're seeing the numbers change, increase in percentage of death, hospitalization, cases. So a lot of new questions going into the fall, going into the winter here. What will it be like? In the resurgence, as many are calling it, of COVID-19. We're going to talk to Dr. William Whaley about that. We have the good news. He's going to give you some great updates and details on the vaccine. So we're going to have that. We're going to have the all-star political panel. We're going to have a little special panel this morning. You just going to have to wait and see what we have in store for you on the panel. And then we're going to have our pet of the week from the Humane Society of Blue Ridge. And I could tell you ahead of time, spoiler alert, right? Spoiler alert, we're going to have a puppy. So we'll have a puppy on the show here to round out our Friday. Now, that being said, let me answer a question that is on the internet, and the number one question. I spoke to Georgia House Speaker David Ralston yesterday, and he said in his career he does not remember ever getting this many emails on a subject. Doesn't remember, and out of state, okay? Because we do have two Senate races that have the Republican majority in the Senate is at stake, and it's running through Georgia. So this has the nation is watching, not just the recount. We'll talk about that later, the vote recount for the presidential election, but the nation is watching here in Georgia the Senate race. So going back to this, I want to answer this question because, again, Georgia House Speaker David Ralston said he doesn't remember ever getting this many emails, and the majority of them from being out of state across the country. And what is that? Why doesn't the Georgia Governor Brian Kemp call a special session to correct some of the issues in the Georgia voting system, okay? And one being that we're seeing national reporting is that you can come to Georgia on Monday, play golf on Tuesday, vote on Wednesday, and go back home. That's really got a lot of people upset. And Democrats, is it Tom Friedman of the New York Times or somebody? Several Democrats and several of the news networks, the cable news networks, have been advocating and promoting people to move to Georgia. Yes, people to move to Georgia so they could vote in this election. Now, getting back, why don't they call a special session? So let me tell you, in Georgia, for the legislative body, okay, for the legislative body to call a special session. That means for Georgia House Speaker David Ralston to call a special session, I'm pretty sure the number is they have to have 108 votes. This is factual. I think the number is 108. They only have 103, okay? And we know there's not 5 Democrats in the Georgia State House that are going to side with the Republicans to call a special session. So if you're out there wondering why on the legislative body side of Georgia they don't call a special session, it's simple. They don't have the votes to do it. Now, Governor Brian Kemp, not quoting his statement that you could read in the AJC and other publications, Governor Brian Kemp is the only authority that can call a special session, and he said he is not going to. Okay? Simple as that. The reason that we're told by several sources that he will not call a special session, and there is a joint statement from Lieutenant Governor Jeff Duncan and also House Speaker David Ralston, but the reason the governor says no on the special session is because they feel anything they do this close to the runoff for these 2 Senate seats will just end up in court and be considered voter suppression. Now, that might anger you, and you might say, well, do what you have to. You need to get this fixed. The consensus is it's just going to go into session, and whatever they pass is going to go straight into the courts and be called voter suppression, and that they need to wait till the 2021 legislative session to correct some of these voting issues in Georgia. So, like it or not, sorry to put it that way, that is actually what's happening. So if you're holding your breath and saying, are they going to call a special session? No, they're not going to. All right? If you're going to keep calling and asking for one, sure, I don't discourage that, but I don't think it's going anywhere. Now, that being said, the other thing that they need to correct is what I call Democratic vote calculators, okay? And if you don't know what a Democratic vote calculator is, it's my phrase. I think I'm the one that made it up. In DeKalb County and Fulton County, all right? DeKalb County and Fulton County, there are 63. Go count them. I'm pretty sure 63, 64. 63 mail-in ballot drop-off boxes. Yes, in just 2 counties. 63 mail-in ballot drop-off boxes. Now, here's the question that no one will answer for me. Those boxes are supposed to be under 24-hour video surveillance. They're not supposed to be on street corners, just on street corners, anywhere. They're supposed to be in locations that have surveillance that can easily be monitored. So number one, we need to see all the surveillance on those boxes. Somebody needs to take the time and look at all the surveillance on those boxes and see which one the ballot harvesting went into, which I believe strongly happens. Okay? Number two, 2 people, my understanding is 2 people are supposed to go every day and retrieve the ballots out of those boxes together. That needs corrected. And the last thing we have to talk about in Georgia, if you're out there anywhere in the United States, because I appreciate you. I got 2 calls from New Jersey yesterday. I'm getting messages from other states that are tuning in to find out what's going on with Georgia. And I've told you I've made a full commitment to stay on these 2 Senate races 7 days a week. You follow our Facebook page. I may do a Facebook Live tomorrow afternoon if news comes up, Sunday, right up to January 5th. But that being said, the other thing that people can't answer that is the logic, okay? Now, I don't know if you're calling him Joe Biden president-elect. If you are, okay. If you're not and you still think there's a pathway for President Donald Trump, I'm with you. But let me say this, there's something bad wrong, and there's no reason why we cannot ask questions. And that's what bothers me more than anything is the media that wants us to live in their reality. They tell us what their reality is, and we should be in it. And if we're not in their reality, we're going to be on a blacklist and we're considered bad Americans. No, we should be questioning things. And the one question, the last thing on Georgia in the elections, why does it take 10 days to count these ballots? Why? Why did it take, if you put 100 people in a room, you say, here are the ballots, start scanning them. Why did it take 4, 5, 7 days to count these ballots? Why were they not opened and scanned in advance like the other counties in Georgia? Just say it. There is a recount in Georgia. Congressman Doug Collins is leading the team on the recount for President Donald Trump's campaign team. We will talk about that at the panel. There's other things going on. There's a Supreme Court win in Pennsylvania that may be big. Is there still a pathway? NBC called Arizona for Joe Biden. Did Donald Trump lose Arizona, or has Arizona moved with the kind of Republican senators like Jeff Flake and the late John McCain. I don't know. We'll talk about all that. What's going on with the coronavirus? What's going on as we enter into winter? What can we expect? Dr. Whaley, as always, is going to do everything he can to bring us up on what's happening there right after these messages.
Hello, my name is Chad Watkins. I'm the manager at Larry's Body Shop. We are a family-owned and operated business and have been serving the North Georgia area since 1978. We are located at 1216 Progress Road in LOJ, Georgia. Our shop specializes in collision repair and we work with all major insurance companies. Larry's Body Shop is ICAR Gold, the highest role of training recognized by the collision repair industry. It is estimated that only 10% of collision shops meet these standards. Our shop consists of state-of-the-art equipment such as laser measurement system, down-drive spray booth, spot and MIG welding equipment. All of our paints are mixed on site so that we can guarantee your paint to match every time. I know that having an accident can be a stressful event. We take pride in making sure our customers are satisfied with the repair of their vehicles. Our waiting area is clean and comfortable with free Wi-Fi and refreshing beverages. So if you're in an accident, stop by and see us at Larry's Body Shop.
Do you feel like healthcare has become too impersonal?
3 times an hour, I'll get you in, I'll get you out.
At Lifetime Medical Center, you're more than a number. We get to know you, not just your medical issues. Dr. Alana Kent is board certified in family practice and offers same-day appointments. She and her staff treat conditions from minor to chronic issues. Lifetime Medical Center, convenient to Jasper and Blue Ridge.
This may sting a little.
North Georgia Diamond is your source for diamonds in North Georgia.
In 1981, Reed Nicholson began selling tires out of an old barn in Mineral Bluff. Little did he know that he had just laid the groundwork for the most trusted names in automotive services in the Blue Ridge area. In 1997, Nicholson Tire Center became what it is today, holding the same values of faith, family, and great customer service. 2 locations to serve you, and the Blue Ridge location is currently expanding to offer fast service and the largest U-Haul provider in Georgia. Nicholson Tire Center, Blue Ridge, and Mineral Bluff.
It's been 4 generations of family ownership, tens of thousands of customers, and more Chevys than we'd ever be able to count. And more than 60 years later, when we say Days gets it done, we still mean it. With the North Georgia Mountains lowest Chevy prices, a huge selection, and outstanding customer care. See Days Chevrolet in Jasper, and let's get it done. Days Chevrolet, Days gets it done. Find new roads.
Hey, folks, good morning. We're at Circuit World here in Blue Ridge, Georgia. Beautiful Friday morning in North Georgia here. I'm your host, BKP, and with us this morning, it is time for Ask the Doc. We want to thank Georgia Cancer Research Center affiliated with Northside Hospital for this segment. And I want to thank Dr. William Whaley here with us this morning. Now, we have been talking. Have we been talking since January, February?
January. Remember when I said there's a new virus in Wuhan, China, that they don't understand. That I think was the second week in January.
We have been talking about this. We have been bringing updates. We've had doctors from Atlanta, Dr. Stephen Marlowe. We have in depth every week kept you informed. These doctors have, and I appreciate them, and there's no difference this morning because what we want to cover, as you well know, we don't want to say COVID's back in the news, but COVID is back in the news a different way. Dr. Whaley's going to take over here in just a second, and we're just going to green light whatever direction he wants to go in because we're hearing increased hospitalizations. We're hearing increased percentage of death, increased cases, different hot spots throughout the country, and we are going in the winter. But we also have gotten some great news about a vaccine. So he's going to wrap all that up together, and he knows the direction he wants to go. Dr. Whaley, I told you when you started, I know you have to go to work. He goes to work he has to go to work.
Well, first of all, it's a 10 today, 5% chance of rain.
Yes.
It's going to be absolutely gorgeous. And if you ride a motorcycle, if you play golf, if you walk in the woods, if you want to go to an orchard or anything, come to North Georgia this weekend. It's going to be fabulous until Monday.
You're exactly right.
And we're still 20 inches up in rain, and the tide doesn't mean anything today.
It's just a nice tide.
Okay, now, here's the thing. I believe that we have been given credit over the last 6 months or longer with bringing things to this program that are in the news weeks later. I mean, I've gotten so many emails, he's gotten so many emails that we heard it here first. One of the things he'll talk about in the political program was everybody joked that the coronavirus is going to go away on election night. It hasn't gone away on election night. Lonnie, show that COVID map, that little sign there I don't know how much you can read on television, but if you go to the New York Times daily COVID report over the last 48 hours, the number of cases, over the last 2 weeks, that's the right-hand side of this curve, cases in the United States have increased by 72% over the amount that they were doing 4 weeks ago. Now, 72% is a real number. Hospitalizations have gone up 39%. Some of your expert panel people have always said, well, cases are just positive tests. That's exactly true. So that doesn't mean sick people. That just means positive tests. Hospitalizations, that's sick people. When somebody has a COVID virus, when they have symptoms, they go to the doctor, they're short of breath, they make the diagnosis, their temperature's 101, they don't hospitalize them, they send them home. And they only come back to the hospital for hospitalization when they are having shortness of breath or symptoms that have to be medically intervened upon. So the hospitalization rate has gone up by 39%. So that tells you that most of the new cases, the 72%, are just positive tests. Now, the people that are on your expert panel also say, don't tell me about hospitalizations, tell me about deaths. Deaths are up 33%. But that's 33% over the 2 weeks that are 4 weeks and 3 weeks ago. And the death rate from this virus is going down. Every week, I keep saying, the death rate's going down. The people that are getting hospitalized have a much better chance of being discharged from the hospital. So all of the publicity now talking about shutting down the country, talking about in New York State and in I think California that you can't have, if you're going to have a family over, you got to do your entertaining in your yard. You can't you take the mask off to eat. You can go to a bathroom in the house, but every person that goes to the bathroom after they leave, they got to re-clean the bathroom. I mean, that's some really serious stuff they're talking about because of these numbers. Okay, pull that one down. Nobody's interested in the United States as a whole. They're interested in where we are and where we live. So this next one, this is about 3 days old, but the death rate in Georgia, let's see, this would have been Wednesday. The total death rate total number of deaths was 88,500, and the total number of cases was about right at 400,000. It's now like 430,000. And in Fannin County, we'll use that at the top, there have been 36 deaths. Now, that's not an insignificant number of deaths in a county with about 18 or 20,000 people, and there have been right at now 900 to 950 cases. So you can pull that down. So the media, I don't want to use the media, the health experts that you see on television, the talking heads, and the ones if Steve Marlowe was on television, Steve Marlowe would say, stay 6 feet, wear your mask, wash your hands, and do these things that we've been talking about for 6 months. And then the people who want to argue about whether or not that's authoritarian telling you how to live, or come up with some sort of study that says we're exhaling 2 quarts of water every day and your mask becomes ineffective after a while. We have gone through all of those arguments here over time about the mask. So on Thursday afternoon, put up that one about the CDC. Everybody that talked about this, from the liberal CNBC down to whatever that Blaze is on the other end, said the CDC has waffled again. And then this is the headline from Thursday. CDC, here are the key words, now says masks protect both the wearers and those around them from COVID-19. It had only been a week ago and 8 months ago that the CDC made the admonition that you're wearing that mask to protect you, not me. Do you remember that? And we had some arguments with that over time, because I had said I think there's good evidence, and this evidence I'm going to show again. I mean, you first saw here 6 weeks ago that we knew that the mask in some regard protected the wearer as well as the rest of the public. Show that next one there. This is the graphic that came out with that statement 2 days ago, and it says, my mask protects you and your mask protects me. That concept, I think we said here 8 weeks ago, was true, and then within weeks after that, the CDC said no, it's the other way around. Pull that one down, and now you're used to seeing this. You remember this one? This is the hairdresser model. Lonnie, you remember that? Okay, this came out. I'm gonna see if I can find a date on it. This came out like in June. 2 hairstylists spent at least 15 minutes with 139 clients. That's the graph. The 2 hairstylists were both COVID positive at the time and did not recognize it. And the number of infected people that they infected out of that 139 clients was 1. So that's 138 people that did not get infected from the hairdressers who were wearing their masks. You can pull that down now, Lonnie. So that's evidence then that the mask, in at least some extent, protects the public as well as the wearer. Now, this is where Ray got in all the time to talking about the N95 mask and does it fit well and everything. There's different kinds of masks. If you'll remember that N95 mask, we're not going to show that picture today, but that N95 mask is the one that your carpenter or the guy that comes into your house doing industrial work is wearing to protect himself from particulate matter in the air, and we've been seeing those for years. That's the real mask. Well, people aren't liking them. They're low supply. They're not called masks. They're called respirators, and they're difficult to find. They're not very comfortable. And so when we talk about masks in the general public, we're talking about that paper mask that looks like the operating room, or we're talking about the homemade cloth masks, which work pretty well, and we're not talking about the gaiter that you pull up over your nose. Now, here are a couple of things that are extremely important that are out of the news. Yesterday, the New England Journal of Medicine published what I think are very, very important articles, because if you want to know who can control your behavior, Lonnie, who can control groups of behavior better than anybody else? Marines. All right. So there ain't no doubt about that. And where can they control them better than anywhere else? Boot camp. All right.
So we're calling in the Marines.
We're calling in the Marines. And here is a study that was reported yesterday. A whole group of Marines, I think the number is like 1,978 or something, who are entering boot camp a couple of months ago, all voluntarily isolated at home for 2 weeks before they came to Parris Island. When they arrived at Parris Island, they quarantined for a second 2 weeks. So that's 4 weeks of quarantine, and they are all negative. They're negative by definition because of 4 weeks of quarantine. Now, all of their training is outdoors, and indoors they all wore masks. They had them generally one to a room rather than two. Some they had two, and they ate socially distanced. They were socially distanced all of the time, wearing their masks, and lo and behold, they infected the number I've forgotten, 78 or 88 or something, but they had infections from all of these non-infected people because one person apparently turned positive after the 14 days of quarantine, and nobody knows where he got it unless he got it from a coin in a coin machine or something. And that they passed it in two environments. One was in the social space of the dormitory where they were all close together and not out of doors, and that wearing the mask did not stop. In other words, it's not 100%, did not stop that virus from passing among these very heavily quarantined Marines. Now, published at about the same time was the final report on the USS Roosevelt. You remember the captain of the Roosevelt got booted because his ship got overwhelmed by the coronavirus. It wasn't his fault at all. They now know in retrospect it had nothing to do with what he did or didn't do. There were 4,779 crewmen on the Roosevelt. 1,271 turned positive before they got everybody off the ship. Of that 1,271, 43% were just like us. They had absolutely no symptoms. Only 23 of that 1,271 got hospitalized. Now remember, this is back in February, March, early in the virus, when we didn't know as much about it as we know now. Of that 23 that got hospitalized, 4 went in the ICU, and 1 died. So the fatality rate in those Marines back in the early days was less than 1 in 1,271. That wouldn't have happened now because of our new, how much we now know about treating the virus. But so what this is what this I think emphasizes is, one, Marines, healthy young people who are not sick, are passing the virus to one another, and that's what people have been telling you. That's the reason that the older people, our fine China, have to be careful about having asymptomatic young people come around them. Second, there's no doubt that wearing that mask to some extent or other helps prevent you from passing the virus to somebody else, and probably lowers by 20 or 40% the chances that you're going to get the virus. So it encourages people to wear the mask when they're in the Walmart and when they're everywhere else. Jane asked me last night, well, does Mama have to wear it? She's 92, when she's walking on the streets of Blue Ridge. And I said, well, Jane, if the streets are crowded, the answer is yes. Because if there's a group in front of her that are talking to each other and she walks through their air in the next 15 seconds, that stuff can still be there. She's out there by herself, heck no, throw the mask away. So that's this CDC coming out with this thing a few days ago created a tremendous amount of discussion. I don't think there was anything new in what they said. I think what the problem is that there are just too many people that are issuing pronouncements. I mean, it's almost like, you remember the article at Delphi, we ought to have somebody up here. Every pronouncement needs to come from the Oracle at Delphi. If it was going to be me, I'd put Steve Marlowe up there and let everybody submit what they want to say to Dr. Marlowe, and then they get him to approve it. So anyway, that gets you that far. We're going to come back into what the next big step is. So I think what we really established right here is the virus is on the rise. It's on the rise in young people. The treatments are much more effective. The virus is on the rise. The hospitalizations as a percentage of the number of people that have the virus is going to be what it is, but the death rate in those people is falling because we're doing a great job of treating it.
Well, let me ask this, because I know there's other areas you want to go into, and I think there's...
It's your turn. No, you got to tell me what.
Well, I think there's two things. There's a couple things that people are asking. Okay, we're in November. We're in the holiday season coming up, where the two biggest times of the year, I would say, for family and friends together are Thanksgiving and Christmas. Is coming up. Thanksgiving, we have a mayor of Chicago that is basically shutting down Thanksgiving. 10 people in a gathering. What would you recommend for our Thanksgiving Day? I mean, just be candid. What would you recommend? I mean, because, this is the only time, and please forgive me, Uncle Joe. I don't know why I'm paying, but this is the only time you get, crazy Uncle Joe to the house and you get to ask him questions. You can't wait. I'm sorry, Uncle Joe, but you know what I mean. I mean, this is the one time where those people, and also Christmas. So what do you say about Thanksgiving? Because I have seen, personally at my house, I've seen 40, 50 people. I mean, we've had like 3 kiddie tables and the tradition.
Okay,
I'll leave it there. It's just I said enough. What would you say?
I believe that the Thanksgiving family get together should continue. You may want to modify it, and that your cousin from Kentucky does not come this year, because you don't know what your cousin and his family from Kentucky are like. But let's take us. We got 3 grandkids and a family in Atlanta that we see at least once or twice a month. They're very careful,
right. And I know them. Yes,
and right, they've been on your show,
yes.
and we expect them to come up here, and we expect Jane's mother's 92. We expect that those boys will be up here with them, and that they're going to wear their mask, and that when we're together and eating, we're going to be eating, and Mimi's going to be at one end of the table, and the kids are going to be at the other. We're going to all be in there together. So, but we're not going to have the Philadelphia family and the New York family come down here to be with us, if that makes any sense. Second,
it does, though. That does make sense, because it does.
All right. So the family is together. those two families in Philadelphia and New York can be together, but they won't be coming here. Some Thanksgivings have been multi-family, and I think these, if you listen carefully to what they've said about these onerous recommendations, are that if you have have it outdoors, remember, you can only be there for 2 hours. They said less than 3 families.
Right.
Less than 3 families. Well, that's bringing multiple families together. It sounds like the neighborhood sort of a thing. And less than 50 people. Well, I think that's probably not terribly wise. And if it's better off if you try to keep the group small. So if you had a family that had 50 people in Philadelphia or wherever it was, and they all came from New Jersey and everything else in the past, I think this year you put it off. Interestingly, Fauci said yesterday that we're going to be doing this into 2022. So when you say this, this is this year. Next year it might be a little less strict, but I've said before, the fact that the vaccine's going to be here, which is where we're going to go next, the fact that the vaccine's going to be here, and everybody thinks that announcement about the vaccine is sort of like dipping Lazarus in the blood and we can get working. That thing's not going to get started till February or March, and you're going to have to immunize 80% of the country before you start tamping the virus down. And I had said before that you'll be wearing a mask next summer. I think that you'll probably be less restricted in the fall of next year, but it's not unlikely that we'll have some of these restrictions that go into 2022.
So when we say recommendations, obviously, you're out there, you're going to do what you want to do, but where it comes to Thanksgiving, family from multiple states that you don't know their day-to-day work environment where they're working, right, and you don't know the people that they're with.
Plus, they're going to be traveling to you.
Plus, they're going to be traveling, right? So don't end Thanksgiving. Don't say you're not having Thanksgiving. But I'll just give you an example. Like, we're here in Georgia, but where my mom is at, there's my sister is right there. My other sister, my brother, and their kids. So they interact daily. So and they're right there, so that's fine.
And then, and they can get together with the other. This is at this generation. There's some at that generation. They can bring them in there, and then if they've got some 20s, they wear their masks.
Let me ask you one more question, because now we're going into holidays. Okay, again with the holiday question, and then we'll double back. We want to hear about the vaccine.
Okay.
But the other question I have that I've been hearing is, you've traveled all over the world. I remember wanting to go to Africa, getting a list of all the shots they wanted me to have to go to Africa, And I remember just even going to Australia some years ago, getting a list from the State Department of what, you need to have this shot, this shot, this shot, That being said, we've been used to our State Department giving us international travel advisories. But now we have state-to-state travel advisories.
Oh, yeah.
What say you on these states that are starting to say, if you traveled from here, you've got to quarantine 14 days, and if you've traveled from there and stopped in this state or whatever, air travel, bus, cars, stopping on the way to Grandma's house, over the river and through the woods. What say you on some of these travel advisories?
I think it's past my level of expertise, but this past summer, as you'll recall, my family meets at the beach for a family week, and my Atlanta family drove to Avon by the Sea, New Jersey, and New Jersey had a quarantine rule that if you came from, I've forgotten what states it was, North Carolina or something, that you had to quarantine when you came into New Jersey. So what they did was they drove straight through the state. They got the gas before they entered the state and didn't stop and bought their gas on a few states up the road to try and adhere to the rule. Nobody adheres to those rules. They don't stop you when you come into the state and check your driver's license and then put you in a hotel and check you every day. I think most of those recommendations that they make are for show. They don't really do anything. If people have that told to them, they may say, I don't really need to go up to New York right now, and so I'll stay home. But it's not going to change the way people, a lot of people work, because they don't. There's no way to enforce it, and there's no way to check that people are doing it.
All right, I appreciate you. I
it's
just
outside
know
my area of expertise.
I know people out there are hearing that in the recommendations in the media out there. So I appreciate you touching on that. I know you want to talk about the vaccine.
I want to talk about
And,
the vaccine. I got a couple of things about the vaccine. One of them I want to talk about is I want to mention what everybody thinks is political about the vaccine, and say that there may be some truth to the fact that there was political slowing of the announcing of the vaccine. I mean, you've heard that they could have announced that the vaccine was here in the middle of October.
Yes.
Which would have then been a win for Trump if they had done so. So put up that first
a win for him in the sense that he was actually he was being honest with the American people,
yes.
that it was on its way.
Yes.
Yes, I see what you're saying.
All right, show that first one. All right, so Pfizer is the company, you can pull that down now, that has come up with this vaccine. And that we've been through this, show that next one there. We have been through this many, many times, but this is sort of the ladder of how you go about getting a vaccine from we want to invent the vaccine to we want to use it. And up here at the top is where you get you see where you get FDA World
Right,
Health.
and I always want to double back, folks. Right here on this show, Dr. Whaley told you on this show alone, Warp Speed, that the mumps, 4 years. That one stuck with me.
Right. Okay.
That took 4 years to develop.
Yes.
Right.
And that was the fastest one. Now this right here is the normal cycle, and this
Right.
normal cycle is 8 years.
Exactly.
8 years. Okay, this thing all begins in January, and this and pull that down before we go to this. And that was this. So January is when this business all starts, and mid-October, which is 10 months later, they had proof that this vaccine works. You with me?
Mm-hmm.
Mid-October. Now they haven't announced it yet, have they? Okay, show up this next one, because I think this is really important. Pull up that one, because we're going to look at your copy of it, which is better
Is that
than mine.
it?
All right, yeah, that's better than mine.
Yeah.
Okay. Now these are the various kinds of vaccine. We've gone through this before, but messenger RNA is the animal, or is the thing that the Pfizer vaccine has its immunity against. All right, pull that down. Remember, I've said before, there has never been a messenger RNA vaccine released for use in the world. Number one. So this is a totally new type of vaccine. So what they've done, and this is how this study was done, I'm going to come to where I think the politics may have come into. 44,000 people were given the shot and then given the second shot 1 month later. The statistical analysis said that when 22 people out of this 44,000 have been shown to be COVID virus positive, you can then determine, so nobody in the world, the patient, the person who gave the shot, the company that manufactured it, the doctor's office they got it, knew whether they got the shot or they got the salt water, the placebo. Now that's a big deal. Totally blinded. Nobody knows. You with me?
Mm-hmm.
So when 22 cases have occurred, they will then unblind those 22. Well, we know from what was published that vaccine was 90% or better effective, which means out of if it was 20 people, not 22, that meant 2 got the virus, and 18 didn't. And that was a huge success. It was what we would call in a cancer study the first break point. That generally would have been announced to the public. At first analysis, this vaccine appears to be effective at 90%. That was available in mid-October. Here's what Pfizer said. After consultation with the FDA, it was decided to wait to break point 2 before the announcement was made. So they had to wait from the 22 positives till they got up to, I think the next break point was in the 43, 47 positive or something. And that took up another couple of weeks and was available, the day after they declared that Biden was the president, the 5th, 6th, or 7th, or something like that. So what was the reason that the FDA and Pfizer decided not to report the first break point, but report the second break point? I don't know the answer to that question, but that was 43 cases, and now it's up to 97 cases. So you're through, I think, most of what you would consider to be the fundamentals, and that the 90% number is still there.
So you're saying the positive news was out there and should have been available, and forget. And
I
I'm
didn't
going to
say should. I said the word could.
Could have been.
There's
Could
a
have been.
difference.
Okay. But let me say this.
If it was a cancer trial, I want to stick to what I know.
Okay.
If it was a cancer trial at the first statistical break point, if there was a national meeting, some guy would have presented a poster or a 5-minute talk that this clinical trial, which is not concluded, seems to have positive data at the first statistical break point. And second, there are no adverse indicators, meaning nobody got, you know how they stopped those clinical trials, those people got sick.
And I'll go with that.
The
so
word
what
is
I get
could, not should.
All right. Well, so could have. So what I want to say here is, forget for just a second there was an election. Erase that out of your mind. There was a time before November 3rd, there could have been positive reporting that was out there, regardless of what's going on over here.
It would have been probably the 15th to the 20th of October.
Okay, I get it. All right. What else you got?
Well, I know you got your expert panel coming around. Your reduced expert panel. This is a very alarming statistic in my mind, because you don't have to be studying this very much to know. You don't think you can turn on television without knowing that many places in the country today have an inadequate number of nurses and technicians available in the hospitals to care for these patients. You know, I think El Paso, Texas, and Texas is the great example today that they've set up. Remember back when we had the hospital ships in New York, they're setting up rooms in tents outside El Paso hospitals. It was estimated there 74 million. Look at that number. That's about how many people voted for Mr. Trump. 74 million U.S. workers are at high risk for the COVID virus. 74 million. If you take all of the healthcare professionals that are involved in the treatment, including the people that are delivering equipment to hospitals and cleaning hospitals and everything else, and the people that live in the house with them. See, that's a multiplier. It's a huge multiplier, right? So, there's 3 of us here, but how many people do we live with? That's multiplied. I mean, I'm living right now with 4. Sometimes I'm living with 7. But if you take the healthcare professionals, including the people that deliver, the guys that drive the ambulances, the first responders, the police, the fire, and everybody else that's at the front line of the COVID virus epidemic, and then add to it the people that they live with and are closely associated with, that's 74 million people. And 61% of them either have weight, blood pressure, age, or some, quote, premorbid condition. So that's why they say we have to protect our healthcare workers first. And now that we have the vaccine, who should get it first? Well, obviously, the healthcare worker should get it first so he doesn't take it home, and the nursing home patients should get it first because they're the most vulnerable. Well, that leaves you and Lonnie out, doesn't it? It gets it to me, but it leaves you and Lonnie out. Y'all don't get the virus. You don't get to do it. So the idea that this vaccine available in February is going to just clean everybody up is ludicrous. Now, how much do you know about the vaccine and its storage?
I don't.
Okay. Well, this has been well publicized, but people don't listen to it. It has to be kept at 71 degrees below zero.
Wow. No, I
from
missed
its
that.
manufacture until its administration. Now, that's cold storage. So they have to create a huge number of 18-wheelers or airplanes or coolers that can go in the back of trucks that are cooled to numbers we aren't used to seeing. I mean, dry ice at the market's not at that temperature.
Right.
So this is a whole infrastructure that will be required if the Pfizer vaccine happens to be the best. Now, there are 15 other vaccines that are at this point in the pipeline that if they are 90% effective, some of them just have to be kept cold. So this may not even be the vaccine that comes to the market because of this difficulty with getting it from where you made it to Blue Ridge, Georgia, where you can give it to somebody and keep it 74 degrees below zero the whole entire time. So I mean,
there's quite an undertaking.
There's quite an undertaking,
that has to
and
be
the fact
for
that
distribution of this vaccine.
Right, and the fact that the vaccine's out there is wonderful. The fact that the vaccine can get, but the infrastructure and stuff to get you there is huge.
Folks, we always want to thank Georgia Cancer Research affiliated with Northside Hospital for this segment. We appreciate them very much. We appreciate Dr. Whaley studying this, and you know, I'll just say, if you'd see the emails going back and forth with his colleagues, that there's a lot of information, and he keeps up with. I got to thank you for that. I read the emails throughout the week. You, Dr. Marlowe, several others. And cutting edge stuff right here. We appreciate it. Let me just say this, okay? There's a couple other things that you're hearing in the media, but I like to say let it flush itself out of the system before we jump into it and not get into it. You're hearing a possible coming mandated quarantine, possible national mandate. That's possible. You're hearing a possible national mandated, mask. Those are things. Let's let them get through the system. Let's see what reality they may be, and we will promise you right here on this show, the doctors will look into that and they will report on that. So if you're hearing that and wondering why we're not addressing that, we're going to let that get through the media for a week or two before we jump into that and try to address that. I thank you so much for addressing the vaccine and where we're at now and our holiday plans this season, Dr. Whaley. He's got to go to work. He always has to rush out and get to work, this guy. He's always working. We appreciate you. Northside, North Georgia Cancer Research, Northside Hospital, we appreciate you very much. Always go and find these segments on fyntv.com, under Ask the Doc. Then also go and find these segments on our YouTube channel, FYNTV, Fetch Your News. It's our YouTube channel, playlist Ask the Doc. And then, if you ever have questions concerning this or anything for the doctor, send them to us. Find us on social media or send them to us. Email info at fetchyournews.com and put in the line there, subject Ask the Doc. You have a great day. We'll be right back. We're going to break down some of this and some political. We're going to analyze what's going on in Georgia as far as the Senate races. We're going to really get into that next. Take a break, Lonnie.
Circuit World has complete queen bedroom packages at amazing prices. Get this queen bed, dresser and mirror, one nightstand, bedding set, and free 32-inch TV, all for only $1799.99 or $129.99 a month. Or get this complete queen bedroom set and sleep in style, also for only $1799.99 or $129.99 a month. What an incredible deal! Stop in today at one of our 5 locations and get the furniture you've always wanted at Circuit World.
Ace is your healthful place for paint and home goods, tools, outdoor living, and lawn equipment. But did you know Ace Hardware of Blue Ridge is a little bit more? We have hunting rifles and accessories for your next hunting trip. We have Amish furniture imported directly from Ohio. And we have Ace Custom Woodworks for all your custom wood project needs, from cabinets to artwork. Ace Hardware of Blue Ridge. We have your new house in stock.
North Georgia Diamond is your source for diamonds in North Georgia.
What you gonna do with all that junk?
Hey folks, welcome back. I'm your host BKP. We are at Circuit World here in Blue Ridge, Georgia, and just a couple quick announcements before we get in. I want to thank Richie Stone for joining me now. Like I said it earlier, I said yesterday, I got 2 calls from New Jersey. I have seen people, and I will tell you how much I appreciate it. I have seen people across Pennsylvania posting our show and saying, if you really want to know what's going on in Georgia, check out this show. Just going to tell you, you know, all the networks are focused in on Georgia, and Richie and I will tell you in a minute, a lot of the stuff you're seeing on the networks in Georgia and what they're reporting is not accurate. we know what, it might sound arrogant, we know what's going on in Georgia. We know what's going on with the recount. We know what's going on with the governor, Secretary of State, the special session. We got it all here for you to cover. We're going to go into that. We understand both of the Senate races and what we're up against here in Georgia and how you can help keep it in Republican control. We're going to dig into all of that. Now, Rick and Bruce, they are. Now, I'm going to be in a lot of trouble, but I'm just going to have to power through and see if I can make it. But they are up in Kentucky, and they're drinking bourbon and betting on the ponies. That's the only thing I can say, Richie.
Must be nice.
Yeah, they're up there. Now, Rick, if you're up there, any horse running in the 6th race, if it says Ricky on it anywhere, I want $2. I want you to box $2 on it. I'll take it. Box it for me. And Bruce, any horse running in the 2nd race up there, if it's got the name Bruce anywhere, give me $2 on that. Okay?
Number 4 always shows. Remember
4 always shows. Don't forget it. But Rick and Bruce, we're glad you guys are out enjoying yourself this weekend. And Jane couldn't be with us. But when I was thinking about the panel, I thought, first of all, let me say in front of the audience, I appreciate you election night. I just really enjoyed that. We had a good time. And we were breaking down some things the others couldn't see, Richie, and out there even with the major networks. But we thought it was quite interesting. We were all looking at each other when the Atlanta water main break happened in Fulton County. And then you were not there. You had to leave. You stayed in for the first hour from 8 to 9. When we heard Fox News call Arizona at 10 o'clock, even though Arizona doesn't close, till 9 o'clock Eastern, an hour later they had called it. NBC has called Arizona this morning. Now, the other networks are calling it this morning for Biden, but only 0.3% separate the two. I think it's down to 11,000, Trump and Biden in Arizona. They've called it for Biden. 0.3% separate them. Less votes than actually in Georgia, where we're doing a recount. Let's talk about the recount. Help me out here. For those out there, recount's starting today.
Yeah. Well, it's
Monday. Is it going to start Monday?
No, it's today, but it's technically an audit. But they're going through every presidential ballot, so tomato.
Right. But what we want to clear up, because a lot of people think it's just a recount. No, a recount is just lack of another word looking for it, is just regurgitating the same votes, scanning them back through.
Right.
This is a hand recount.
Right.
To where in every single county, 159 counties in Georgia, and 159 counties, there'll be a team assembled. There's a team assembled. And Democrats and Republicans will have a representative there in each county with an election official, and they will put their glasses on and
look at every single ballot.
This one, right?
And everybody. You have your counters, you have your observers, and then you have a review panel made up of 3 people, a Republican, a Democrat, and an independent supervisor, if you will. Shades of Florida, if folks out there remember the Florida recount of 2000 of holding it up.
Well, that was the holding it in a light, remember, and seeing if that Chad was hanging.
And
that's where we learned hanging Chad, right, Richie?
Right, and then you kick it to the panel, the 3, if there's a dispute, and then you go to that to break the tie.
Okay, so that is starting today in Georgia.
Correct.
Okay. So for folks out there, number 1, it's a hand recount. Second, it's an audit.
Right.
And in the audit, which we want to be clear with the audience, because we have some national people from sea to shining sea, how is this working? The audit also will look at the I have it here on November 10th, a couple days ago, the Doug Collins, which is the chair heading up the recount committee for Donald Trump, and David Schaefer, the Georgia GOP chair, sent Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger a letter, and I don't want to say demands, but this was the request of what they had, how they would like for it to go, and he said yes.
Right.
And Richie, can you detail, I mean, I had Congressman Doug Collins on the show Wednesday. Go ahead.
Well, caveat to that, too, is the Secretary's team is saying that it's also, I can't remember the phrase he used, but on their end, they're saying it's not because of the demands from the president's team, that
Right.
it was some sort of probability factor to where they needed to hand count every presidential. So
Okay, so we'll say this. They sent the letter,
everyone agrees.
and they say they made the decision.
Correct.
We'll live with that, right? But here is the one thing that I had, and I want you to touch on this. I had Congressman Doug Collins on our show Wednesday morning, about 19 minutes, and I brought up this one right here because I have tagged them Democrat vote calculators. That's what I call the boxes, the ballot boxes that are sitting on street corners. If somebody could throw something through the camera, they would at me, because if they're going to tell me, they're going to say, if you tell us one more time. But between DeKalb County and Fulton County, 63 ballot boxes sitting there. And again, I call them Democrat.
Oh, you mean like the Blockbuster
Yes.
video return?
Yeah, the
looking
video
box.
return boxes. I like that. Yeah, video return boxes. 63. Okay.
Right.
In this recount, hand recount, and audit, I stepped up because they said they want to trace the chain of custody of ballots from printing to sending, from receipt to counting to document that the ballots being counted were cast in a legal manner conforming to the chain of custody of all ballots. How do you interpret that, Richie, what they're looking at?
Well, in the simplest, to put that in the simplest form possible, what I think it means, and granted, I don't speak for anyone
We understand
other than myself, but I think it's a matter of making sure that every ballot in the so folks understand here, it's a bit complicated. The two-factor system, in Georgia we vote on, of course, the machine. It prints out a piece of paper and then goes into another machine.
Right.
Looks like a big copy machine. And that was a big selling point of the new system after 2018, when it was demanded of Republicans to do it, and they did. We can get into that later as to whether that was the best choice. But your choice is written on that paper. Now, one of the big questions is, did those counters properly count the ballots? Was there an undercount, or was there some glitch in the system like we saw in Michigan that caused the vote to have irregularities? Then the chain of custody that you mentioned, I think, is about a hand count audit of the mail-in ballots where people use pens.
Right.
And whether, I think in some counties there are suspicions, if not outright accusations, that there was a very lax attitude toward whether the ballots met the standard of being able to count as a proper vote. Those suspicions were even were amplified by the fact that Republican observers were kicked out, and I think that's where a lot of this stems from, is that election observers, plus with the COVID stuff and having to be a mile away, not literally but figuratively, where you couldn't even see what it was. So this is going to allow a closer look for all parties involved to ensure that everything was above board.
Well, I like what you said there, because both of us are not speaking for anybody, but other people have spoken.
Sure.
And we can actually, talk about what they put out.
Right.
And GOP Chair David Schaefer put out a tweet saying Fulton County election officials, I think it was 10:30, said go home, 10 o'clock, go home. We're going to reconvene at 8 o'clock in the morning or whatever, right?
Yeah.
It sent them home. I mean, this is from the Georgia GOP chair. We're not speaking for anybody. They sent the Republicans home.
Right. From my understanding,
And he says in his tweet, they continued to count.
Right, and I can tell you firsthand that is what happened. They went back to their headquarters and didn't find out until they saw it on television that Fulton was still counting, and that's a big problem.
If we get done with all the challenges across this country and they determine okay, and I don't want to get in an argument, folks, but they determine that he's going to end up, Joe Biden, president-elect. Okay, if we get through the challenges and that's the determination. I think what upsets me or concerns me is the way we're getting looked at for just wanting to ask some questions. Mm-hmm. And I would like to know in Georgia, and I'll tell you out there, and if you're in Pennsylvania, maybe you're asking these questions, and if you're in Michigan and you're asking your questions there, I'd like to know, okay, I have watched video of people and their subcontractors that are pulling up to the Blockbuster video boxes, okay? I like the way you put that. But they're pulling up there, and they've got these big duffel bags, and there's two people, and they're picking them up by piles out of there.
Ballot harvesting.
And stuffing them in bags to take back to the election. Now, here's my question. When they turn them in, are they saying this is box, because I said there's 63, this is box 29, and it's 2 p.m. and they're signing off? So when these 10,000 come out of this box, because I've watched big duffel bags.
Right.
Okay. It was like they went in a bank vault and we're piling them in. But when they turn them in to the counters, are these like 2 o'clock, and then are these ballots set here and say these came out of box 29 to where we can know where these came from? I mean, that's one of my questions, and it's like I'm a bad guy for wanting to know that.
Right, and to answer the question about that, I don't think there is any way to know, especially in the bigger counties. And ballot harvesting is 100% illegal in Georgia, and that's me personally, my biggest concern throughout this entire process, and something that I've worried about and even mentioned, I think even here on the show, was the fear of the election law that exists as passed by the state legislature has kind of been turned upside down to where ballot harvesting has been allowed. And then, like you said, the Democrats have never really lost an election, have they? I mean, go back to Bush, go back to Hillary, go back to midterm elections. There's always an excuse. Stacey Abrams, there's always a reason. It's either voter suppression or John Kerry's exit polls didn't line up, or the Supreme Court stole Florida. They never lose. They never really lose, right? And we're in a scenario now where we finally, we question something, and we're un-American, right?
I got it. I'm with you. That's what I'm saying. I mean, just let
it's unbelievable. What is believable?
Well, I find it interesting that Democrats feel this election is above board. When all of a sudden, how many elections now before we finally got to the one where they feel it's above board?
Yeah, real quick, Stacey Abrams loses by 55,000 votes, and they say it's the single biggest case of voter suppression they've ever seen. They win by 14,000, or they're in the lead right now by 14,000. No problem. We're talking about a margin of
let's go back to that
70,000 vote difference.
Let's go back to that also. I get it, and I understand a lot of people out there upset that Donald Trump will not come out and concede. We're in 2020, ending 2020. I don't think Stacey's ever conceded the governor's race yet, has she? Did she?
Not that I'm aware of.
Right? She didn't concede. She did. That's a fact. Stacey Abrams did not concede. She took Kemp to court. She took the whole election system to court. She did everything she could to stop him of having a transition team ready to go. And the current governor of Georgia, if you're out there nationally watching, they had to race at the end of the year to get everything, the inaugural swearing in and everything organized, because Stacey Abrams had them tied up in court, right?
Right.
Now we're asking some questions, and we're risking national security. The second thing is, hey, we're just following Hillary's recommendation. Remember, don't concede no matter what, right?
Under no circumstances.
No circumstances, right? And we're let me ask you this, and I know people are wanting to know out there, and they say, okay, we're going to get into the Senate, but does the president have a pathway? And I will be the first to say it's very narrow. I hear the media, because I know you know me. I watch the media. I watch them every morning to see the narrative they're trying to sell us.
Right.
and they're trying to sell their reality, and they've been talking in the affirmative. He is the president-elect, and they have been talking about no matter what the recounts are, they have the votes. See, I'm going to agree with that. The votes are there. Are they legal votes is my question.
Right.
So if you go back and look at these states, and the media sells you, no matter what they do, we got the votes. When we get done, you got the votes. That's true. Are they legitimate? Are they real? So let me give you a couple. Let me give you a couple balls in the air, and I want you to take some time. Dominion Software. We're hearing things in Michigan. We're hearing things from Lynn Wood, the attorney, Sidney Powell, Rudy Giuliani. We actually have a court in Pennsylvania. No matter how small they want to make the win, there's significance of the win in Pennsylvania last night. That may be a door opener for Supreme Court. Take all of that. Does the president have a pathway? And what say you?
Well, starting with Dominion, I don't know. You know, I mean, that's over my head, over our head, as far as the computer.
You can say that about me. You got that. You can say it's yes.
Whether or not they can flip votes through software, I don't know. That's beyond me. But I will say, you have to read between the lines sometimes, and a lot of media folks, even in conservative media, have really criticized the Sidney Powell. But I tell you this. Who is her main client?
General Flynn right now.
Right. What did General Flynn do in the Obama administration? What was his role?
You mean
head of military intelligence, right? He's essentially the head of the military CIA.
Right.
If there is a program used around the world that can flip votes, he would know about it, and she would. I mean, I think she's a credible source. Is all I'm saying. When she was on with Lou Dobbs and Tom Fitton's one of the most plugged-in guys around Judicial Watch.
I got
it. Lou Dobbs.
I like where you're going with this. So if you want to criticize,
look into it.
I like where you went with that, because I'm with you. There's so much of this above my pay grade, and I don't know the name. I will find it for you. But Sidney Powell, How to Save Our Judicial System, is the best hour you could take and give. It's a speech that she gave on how to save. It's a Heritage, or is it the Heritage Foundation? How to Save Our Judicial System is one of the best speeches. 1 hour of your time. Look it up.
I consider her to be a credible person. So if she's the one,
then also search Sidney Powell and Enron. This is not just this is not just somebody came along that's a crackpot attorney.
Yeah, Andrew Weissman is not a fan, that's for sure.
Exactly.
But as far as the original question about the path to victory, I think that needs to be looked into. But unfortunately, I think there are a lot of ballots that were mailed in that are highly questionable. Just from what my folks have been doing and what I know folks at the state party are doing, not to get too deep into it, but I know that there are discrepancies, but how do you throw votes out if they've been separated from the envelope, if you don't know who?
Well,
that's where it gets very hard.
Does he have a pathway? And I know there's still people hanging out there, and I tell you, I've not given up until I go on Twitter and President Donald Trump says I'm moving on, and Joe Biden is president-elect. I'm with you. I haven't given up because I'm going to stay with it. But the pathway, I don't know. So let me give you this, okay? I've been watching a lot of the different talking heads. But there's one report out there, among many, that interests me. I read a report yesterday where they did looking at some parallel things. The city of Cleveland. The city of Cleveland is Democrat.
Not Cleveland, Georgia.
No, Cleveland, Ohio.
Okay, gotcha.
City of Cleveland, Ohio. Sorry. All our good friends over in Cleveland, Georgia. Thanks for the clear up.
We love White County.
We love White County. Nice catch. All right. Cleveland, Ohio. This is actually where the Obama phone. Remember the lady with the
Of course. How could I forget?
How can we forget Obama? But Cleveland, Ohio, Democrat. Strong Democrat. Okay. Excuse me. Demographics, black, Hispanic, white, Democrat breakdown voters, parallel, and and population parallel with Milwaukee. You
Yeah, I know
take
where
the
you're
two
going with
cities,
this.
they parallel.
Mhm.
Okay. So when you run the numbers and you have analysts out there, and there's some mathematicians, there's some people at MIT, there's some people running numbers, okay? And they're doing probability, and like you said, it's above my pay grade, but they're running this. So when you run the numbers in Cleveland and you say, no matter what happened in Cleveland, Trump wasn't losing Ohio. So let's not fight Ohio, if that's a theory you're taking. But Wisconsin, we're going to take Wisconsin, all right?
Hypothetically.
Hypothetically. 51% voter turnout in Cleveland. I think the number, you can look it up and fact check me, but it's like Cleveland, Ohio, 51% voter turnout. And I think when we get over to Milwaukee, we got like 88% voter turnout.
Some precincts had more people than registered day of.
So, I mean, that is something we're asking. And let me throw this
Oh,
at
it goes
you.
further, too. Oh, go ahead.
No, you take off with it. If
No,
you
what were you
want
gonna
to
throw?
Well, the other thing I was going to say is, during the whole impeachment hoax, the President of the United States would come out and he would say, look, this is not about me. We can never let this happen again to an American president. We can't let it happen to an American president. Forget me. Well, basically, with the challenge right now, he's saying, forget it's me that you're considering lost. We can never let the American people, we can't let the integrity of this election, we can't let that happen for anybody else in the future. We'll
Right.
never have a fair and balanced election in the future. So go ahead, you double down on what I'm talking about. Take it where you want to go.
Well, especially when I talk to a lot of my Democratic friends around the country, that's what I go to, because it's not just the Cleveland-Milwaukee example. You know the term trends travel, right? That's why we have
Right.
so-called bellwether counties, where you can look at a county in Florida and a county in North Carolina, a county in Georgia, and pretty much guess how a county in Wisconsin or Michigan will go. Now, or Arizona, with the Florida example. And it's weird that Biden outperformed Obama in certain big cities, whether it was Philadelphia, Detroit, Milwaukee, Atlanta.
I'm listening.
Whereas in other big cities, Trump actually did better than he did in his 2016 numbers. So in a city like Cleveland or New York City, Trump got, I don't know the exact number offhand, but I looked at it earlier in the week. His numbers in Brooklyn, you would think Brooklyn would be 80% plus Biden, but he was still in the 70s last time I checked, which is, still not close, but it's closer.
People are questioning, why wasn't there these 8 and 9 days to count votes and discrepancies and questions in New York, because they didn't need New York.
Much bigger city.
Right? Why weren't these problems in New Jersey, Rhode Island, California?
Places where primaries over the summer are still being litigated.
Right. Why? Because they didn't need them. I mean, because I'm just going to say,
it's a huge red flag.
The president hasn't given up a pathway, and I want to get it. I want to get in before we run out of time. I want to get into the Senate in a minute, okay? But I want to go one more thing, folks. If you're doing your research out there, you're going to see so much stuff on Dominion. I mean, a report: Dominion deleted 2.7 million Trump votes nationwide. Data analysts find 221,000 Pennsylvania votes switched from President Trump to Biden. 941,000 Trump votes deleted. Dominion, there's a lot of talk about there being problems with the software, okay? Research that. I got no problem with that. But here is the door opener that they won't talk about, and I don't have it pulled up, so let's see if I can get it right, and Richie correct me or bring it around for me. Every day in the media, they have been talking about Trump just keeps with these frivolous lawsuits in court, and they're getting thrown out left and right, left and right. Well, actually, a court sided with the Trump administration yesterday in Pennsylvania. If you talk to people in the know, Richie, you know where I'm going with that. If you talk to people in the know, they'll say the real thing we're looking at, the door opener, is possibly Pennsylvania, and possibly that being the door opener that gets into the Supreme Court. Now, you do realize if the Supreme Court were to hear this case, okay, if they were to hear this case, that it would affect 30 states, okay? Now, there's an interesting thing with all the media wanting Trump to quit. How many, and I'm just doing this from memory, I don't have it on my screen, what are we up to, like 21 attorney generals across the country, state attorney generals that have come together that are asking the Supreme Court to investigate. So we have that going on. But yesterday in Pennsylvania, the Constitution gives the election authority to your state legislative body. Let's be clear. You're right. Your state legislative body. That's what the Constitution of the United States gives full authority to.
And the state legislatures pass that on to the voters.
Right. Now, when you have an executive, a governor, that says 2 days before an election, we're going to accept ballots up to here, and we're not going to check the signature on this date. Republicans grab it and say, we're going to court, and the court says, a judge says, we're going to accept the new election rule you just put in place last week. That's unconstitutional. Really what has to happen there...
Or a state Supreme Court.
Yeah, but what has to happen is the state Supreme Court say to the executive, if we're going to rule this way, you need to go back to the legislature and get them, and I don't want to convolute it, get them to write the law in according to our ruling because they have the authority. With me?
It's a unique authority, yeah.
But you understand what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So what the breakthrough in Pennsylvania that they're calling a little breakthrough and they're shoving under the rug is there is a court that said, hey, you don't have the authority to count these ballots. This is our first one that says you don't have the authority to count these ballots.
Correct.
And there could be a door opening. Richie, you want to take off?
Well,
with that?
sure, because then when you apply that to a state like Georgia, it was actually a court that ruled that the signatures didn't have to match. It was a court that ruled that your mail-in ballot didn't need voter ID, which is a state law. It was a court that ruled on the mail-in stuff, and then it was the secretary and the governor because of COVID, because the state legislature was suspended. That's the thing a lot of folks have to remember is around the country, the state legislatures, because of a state of emergency, delegated all powers to the executive for a time. And I think that's the gray area, is what supersedes what, but a lot of your constitutional scholars will say, no, I mean, it's the state legislature makes election law for president.
The end all is you just opened the door and doubled down and you used Georgia, but there's states all across this country
just because I know Georgia better than most.
Right, but there's states all across this country. No, I'm glad you did that because there's states all across this country. If that gets into the Supreme Court, that affects a lot of states.
Right.
Because going back, and we want to move to the Senate, going back, let's be clear, that authority belongs to your legislative body, not the courts. The courts can't pass law. And the executive does not have the authority in elections, especially. It has to.
The one area where it solely lies within the state legislature, there's no veto. I can't say there's no veto, but there's no. It's just different than your typical pass the law, schoolhouse rock, go on to the executive. But I will say, I think a lot of these state officials had the best of intentions. They wanted to make things easier and more. Less open to criticism with the pandemic, because you got to think where our mindset was in April and May as opposed to now.
I will tell you this.
In their defense.
Well, first of all, I can't double down in their
No,
defense.
I know you won't. I know you won't.
I was feeling it, and I said, I'm with you all the way this morning, Rich. No, but here's what I'm going to say is I understand what you just said. I think they left the door open a little too far And where you're saying they were trying to take the pandemic, take your health, welfare, safety into consideration, senior citizens, and making it more available so we didn't lose voters. I get it, but I think there should have been another ounce of checks and balances to go with it.
I think it was naive.
You know what I'm saying? I think you say, okay, we're going to do this, but here's the checks and balance.
Right.
Okay? And that should have went to
people took advantage of it.
A legislative body got voted on, and then it would be legal. I don't want to take any more time. I mean, in depth, but I want to close off the pathway. Is there anything else out there with software and things like that you would like to mention that you didn't today before we jump into the Senate race?
No, I think we'll have the recount here in Georgia. That's really more where my focus is as far as my day to day. I mean, really, this election hasn't. I mean, it's never ending, and it's wait and see because we don't know. We don't know what we don't know.
I am going to step out and say, I spoke to the 9th District Chair yesterday, and she's an amazing woman. Rebecca Yardley is an amazing woman, 9th District Chair for the Republican Party.
Without question.
And I think she said she's getting 2-3 hours sleep. So I said, look, if you got to call me and use me, just do it. And she's like, no, I don't want to. I said, no, just do it if you have to. She's get 2-3 hours sleep. So
her and others in the state party and here around the District 9 have just been heroes.
They have.
Helping all of the county chairs because I don't know if people understand. Every single county is doing this recount, and there are so many procedures and rules and regulations and things that govern how this works.
Right.
And she's been driving the ship, if you will, for us.
So big shout out to Rebecca. We hope you're doing well, and we know we got a lot on your plate. So, and we want to thank you here. Let's move to the Senate because,
Sure.
In Georgia we have to walk and chew gum at the same time. So we've got to settle the presidential numbers and get that election behind us and completed, whatever the results may be. But at the same time, we have Kelly Loeffler, the two sitting senators, Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue. Let me make sure I clarify something with you out there. Loeffler, so there's no confusion, it is for the balance of a term. So in her race, whoever wins has to turn around and start running the next day again because it is the balance of Johnny Isakson's term. David Perdue is for the full 6-year term. Okay,
right.
Senate.
She's sworn in, or whoever wins that one is sworn in immediately.
Right, and it's for 2 years. So we're right back 2 years from now. Now, that being said, I tell the audience, I don't do it as a scare tactic, but let's remember, if we do not pull both seats, there's zero chance, we don't have no room for error. If we do not win both seats in Georgia, think of Kamala Harris being the deciding vote. Now, when you study politics, you know all too well, the vice president presides over the Senate. That's the actual...
I'm speaking.
Huh? Yeah. Sorry, Richie. I'm speaking. The debate reference, if you weren't there. Good one. Good one. You got a couple this way. So, but the vice president presides over the Senate. We don't need a 50-50, and then we don't have a clear majority leader. We have to think about everything we've watched in the Senate. For example, Lindsey Graham is the chair of the Judiciary Committee. Okay, we have to think of every committee chair seat. Go
Right.
look at them today, who they are. We have to think about the balance and who can keep Biden in check if he's sworn in.
His cabinet
And they're
confirmations.
radical. Who will approve? He will know that if the Republicans are in power, certain people like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez that he could not send for approval. We got all these things to think about.
Right.
It's from sea to shining sea. There's an estimate, Richie, of $250 million may pour into this state in the next 9 weeks. What say you on these two races?
Yeah, it's going to be a banner quarter for the political consultants here in Georgia. First of all, a lot of your networks are going to have a nice Christmas season. The ad wars are going to be unreal because the price will be driven up because of Christmas and all of that going on. So a lot of money to be made. But aside from that, I think it's it's not hyperbole to say that this is the future of the country rests in Georgia, and whether it's cabinet appointments, the Biden cabinet hinges on the results of this, whether or not he's going to have a bunch of Trump holdovers because he can't get anyone through, or whether or not it's the most radical cabinet we've ever seen. I think a lot of people, especially younger folks out there, don't really remember a time when a president comes into divided government, because Obama had such a supermajority, Trump had a majority. This is huge, and it goes down to judicial appointments. It goes to Supreme Court justice appointments if that arises during his presidency, and it can't be understated or just how important these two elections are, these two runoff elections. Obviously, Senator Perdue barely missed.
He is actually part of he is part of the audit, his race. Trump, Perdue, and I think Bubba McDonald, those are the three races that
Well, I think they're just looking at the Trump race as of now, but if there are irregularities, I would imagine that would get revisited, yes. And then there, from what I understand, there'll also be a machine recount if it stays within a certain margin, and he falls within that margin.
Well, let me move on to this. We've heard, we've heard stories, and I opened the show this morning. Nationally, and I opened the show with saying this because I asked him if I could say this, and he said yes. House Speaker David Ralston told me in his career he can't remember ever getting as many emails, and most of them from out of state. This is being watched. I call it from sea to shining sea. He said he doesn't remember ever getting this many emails, most from out of state, wanting to know if they're going to have a special session, if they're going to fix the loophole of moving here for 3 days and leaving and voting. And it is something that people are asking. And the answer is no, they're not going to have a special session. That is pretty much a done deal.
Right.
If you weren't here in the beginning, Republicans in the state of Georgia, I think, need 108. They got 103. There's no 5. If the House, in Georgia, the House can call a special session only if it's 108 they need. Okay, they have 105 or 3. And it's like the Speaker said yesterday, where are we going to find 5 Democrats that are going to go with us to have a special session? So they don't have the authority. Now, this is not getting into whether we're throwing the governor under the bus or anything. It's just the reality. The governor has made a statement he's not going to call a special session.
Right.
So that is passed. What's your concern on some of the stuff you're hearing of people moving in here and what we're up against in this runoff?
Well, the Attorney General actually released a statement, too. It really didn't get covered heavily, but Attorney General Chris Carr released a statement. It is illegal. Andrew Yang went on television.
Said him and his wife are moving
here. They're going to vote and help get Democrats reelected. That's actually illegal. And, whether or not they should have told him it was illegal, I don't know. I mean, that's for partisans to bicker over. I think it might have been funny. But, yeah, it is a felony to do that. And whether or not we see that, I don't know. I think that is a dangerous territory. I'm a historian, and that brings up shades of Kansas and, in the 1850s. And, folks can look into that as far as historical takes on people flooding into a state for an election. That's not good. Now, as far as outside support, yeah, they're going to flood in here to work the ground, I think, on both sides. And I think we're going to see a very, very aggressive effort to turn all sides out. I mean, it's something that, it's going to be the only show in town. It's like the Utah Jazz. Why do they do well in Salt Lake City? It's because they're the only game in town. Every bit of attention is going to be on this race.
Well, let me say to you, I talked to Rebecca Yardley yesterday and about Get Out the Vote, and I know she is walking and chewing gum at the same time. She, as the 9th District Chair, is working on the recount committee to get everybody in place for all 20 counties. But at the same time, I mean, the get out the vote effort in the 9th District, and you are a part of that, and I will say this, Richie is the Gilmer County GOP chair. You're a part of that, and you know it very well, that a get out the vote effort is going to be through the roof in this district, because I tell people nationally, I understand Metro Atlanta and they have the votes, but I've always said a runoff is won by the candidate that can get their voters back. That's who wins the runoff. I think Democrats are 1 out of 10. The last 10, they got 1 out of 10 in a runoff in Georgia. So I'm not making light of it, but I will say this: I always remind people that the 9th District of Georgia and the 14th brought out 50,000 more votes this year than they had in the past. So I'm not discounting the 14th and the power there, but the 9th District of Georgia is the most conservative Republican voting district, top Republican voting district in Georgia, 3rd most Republican voting district in the United States. So you guys, you have intel, and you may not be able to share all of it, but I do want you to come back and help people out there that need information. But you guys are really working in this district on the get out the vote, because people here go vote.
Well, just in general, I'll say that it favors in-person and day-of voters, runoffs typically do, because you have a shorter period of time to get that mail-in absentee operation together, like you would for a general election. So that's one built-in advantage. We haven't had this scenario in Georgia since Saxby Chambliss ran in a runoff. He was forced into a runoff in the Obama year, when Obama actually did really well in Georgia in 08 and forced.
Max Cleland, is that who he ran
I want to say it was Jim Martin. Y'all can fact check me over there, but I want to say Jim Martin was the opponent.
It might have been. All right.
Jim Martin was a serial Democrat runner.
Right.
But Saxby Chambliss ended up winning by a pretty healthy margin. I want to say almost 60% of the vote. So historically speaking, that favors the GOP in a state like Georgia. But then again, we're in a different world than we were in early 2009 after the 08 election, because internet wasn't as prominent, and then the focus. I mean, Obama didn't need the Senate; he had the Senate. It was fine either way. So I think voter enthusiasm is going to be a major factor. And not to completely change the subject, but another angle with this, with the Biden cabinet, is if he picks sitting U.S. senators like an Elizabeth Warren, they have a Republican governor, and Maryland, some of these other states, and it just underscores the importance of
let me say this.
election.
I know we got to wrap up and go, but I agree with you there. And let me say, Richie, we have to stay focused on the Senate and maintaining the Senate. So right now we have to leave some other things alone, we'll put it that way, in our discussion. But here in Georgia, with Republicans all over the state, we're already guaranteed a pretty interesting 2022. When January 5th comes, it's not like we could take off January 6th, because we immediately in Georgia have some things that are going to surface. They are. Bottom line, we're not going there today, but right?
Yeah, I'm not going there.
I know you wasn't, but you know what I'm saying. With or without us, they're surfacing January 6th. So.
Right. Yeah, being a midterm years in Georgia are big.
Exactly.
That's when our constitutional officers are on the ballot, and we'll see what happens.
Folks, it's called touching the third rail. We're going to stay focused. The reality is, I can't change. I didn't do it. I always say I was home in bed. I didn't do anything. How can I get the blame for it? Well, we have two sitting senators that have asked for the resignation of our Secretary of State. We have a Secretary of State that has had there's been some controversy, and every bit of it has happened. For once, I didn't start it. I'm not responsible for making it happen. But something here, two things before we go. Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger is in quarantine right now. His wife tested positive. I put it out yesterday and I said sources told me, but it was shortly after that. It's on Fox News and everywhere. AJC, yes. Secretary of State in Georgia, Brad Raffensperger, is in quarantine. His wife tested positive. So don't know how that takes him out of the mix and how that may affect things. Now, the other thing.
What else could happen, right?
Right, exactly. I want to close with this because I want to say it to you. I'm getting attacked out there by Democrats, and I'm going to say in some ways, rightly so. They're attacking me that all of a sudden I'm supporting Kelly Loeffler, okay? And I'm trying to tell people, listen, when I get done at the end of the day, there's a lot of footage of me saying things where Senator Loeffler's concerned. I got it, okay? But when I get done at the end of the day, I have to look at Raphael Warnock, that one says he's a reverend, okay? And I've got to look at Raphael Warnock, and I'm pro-life, okay? And I do not want a socialist government. And I can make a full list of, okay, Kelly Loeffler, what has she done in her short time? What does she say she will do? It's in line with what I expect. So that's what I cannot be a part of Raphael Warnock or John Ossoff being the reason they control the Senate. You understand?
Oh, yeah.
So,
and just from my own standpoint, I mean, I think, especially up here in North Georgia, I think it's understandable to most practical people why folks up here supported Doug Collins. I mean, he was their congressman, and still is.
You know, I'm glad you said that, because even being GOP chair in Gilmer County, Congressman Collins has been our congressman for quite some time. He was very popular in the district.
He's visible.
And he's visible, and, you know, yes, he got the votes. But I think you would say, I'll leave it in your own words, is David Perdue, Senator David Perdue, his votes that Tuesday night were his votes, and he's got to get all his votes back. Kelly Loeffler in the 9th District has to get her votes back and then convince Collins supporters not to stay home and come back. And I'm looking at the camera and saying, look, if anybody, if I can, and that was a good thing the congressman did that night. He was gracious. He immediately, Congressman Collins, endorsed her and asked the 9th District, I'm doing the same thing. I know you're doing the same thing this morning.
And I think that, oh, yeah, without question. I mean, it doesn't even, it's a no-brainer. And one of the silver linings here is that with this runoff race, the brain power of Republicans in Georgia are no longer split. Everybody can come together now, and it's an all hands on deck scenario where it's not an internal battle, to go along with. Well, let me rephrase that. You know, you had the presidential race; everyone was united on that. But when you had such a heated race within that special election primary, it did create some division to where we weren't able to coalesce the way we should. But now, I think everyone's united on the same front to get this done, and I think that's going to go a long way to help us in the January effort.
Let me say this to close. First of all, Richie, I appreciate you coming up, and I want you to come up for a couple reasons, because we know we have several viewers in Florida. We appreciate the messages you send us. But let me say this. There's 159 counties in Georgia. Let me close with this. There's 159 counties in Georgia. You have asked me, you're asking, you're emailing in Atlanta, Republicans all over the state, how do you help keep Georgia with the 2 Republican senators and keep the Senate? Out of 159 counties, these are the people that we're in rural counties. These are the people that are working day to day to remind people out there there's still an election. And whether you know it or not, sometimes that gets lost. That gets lost. We're going into Christmas.
Especially.
And you could see the commercials, all day of John Ossoff said this, David Perdue said this, Kelly Loeffler said this. Okay, I get it. I get it, all the smoke out there. But when you sort through the smoke, my opinion, one of the biggest things you have to do is remind the people in these rural counties there's an election. That's number one, and they got to get back. So there's about 5 counties in Georgia, we'll just say that, where the political machine takes place that circles the Atlanta area. I get it. But outside of the 5, right, there's 155, or 54, that'd be 59. There's 154 counties that have people like this working that have to get out the vote, and they will. So get with me. You know my number, 706-889-9700. There's ways you can give financially, okay? This is not a telethon, but if you're out there and you're in Michigan and you're a nervous wreck that, you know, Chuck Schumer is going to be the majority leader and AOC is going to be Secretary of State, and I'm not saying that jokingly, if those are concerns you have and you're out there anywhere across this country and you're saying, where could I send $25? I'm going to tell you, it's people like this in the local GOPs. If they have the bank account, they can get out in these little markets and remind people there's an election. Am I right or wrong?
Yeah, I mean, we have unforeseen costs going into a runoff to where we have an office and we have furniture.
Right.
And I'll say it's a bit of a double-edged sword because you see this Trump economy. When the economy's humming here in rural America, which the Trump years have given us, I mean, you folks at home can see it here. I mean, it's Grand Central Station here at Circuit World at 9 a.m. And that's a great thing. But when we don't have as much despair and depression like we had during the Obama years, it gets a little harder to drum up support for the vote because people are busy.
Right.
People are
We got to remind
working.
them there's election.
Without question.
All the smoke.
Without question.
We got to go. I have a pet of the week. We have our star. Sorry, Richie. I know you come up.
I thought I was the star.
I know, Richie, but I even tell Rick and them, this is the disappointing moment. I have to let you down and let the people know out there we do have our pet of the week, a puppy to brighten your day from the Humane Society of Blue Ridge. Richie, thank you. Great discussion.
I'll go talk to JR. We can be the stars.
You guys go talk. We'll be right back after these messages with our pet of the week from the Humane Society of Blue Ridge.
Thanks for having me.
Hello, my name is Chad Watkins. I'm the manager at Larry's Body Shop. We are a family-owned and operated business and have been serving the North Georgia area since 1978. We are located at 1216 Progress Road in LOJ, Georgia. Our shop specializes in collision repair and we work with all major insurance companies. Larry's Body Shop is ICAR Gold, the highest role of training recognized by the collision repair industry. It is estimated that only 10% of collision shops meet these standards. Our shop consists of state-of-the-art equipment such as laser measurement system, down-drive spray booth, spot and MIG welding equipment. All of our paints are mixed on-site so that we can guarantee your paint to match every time. I know that having an accident can be a stressful event. We take pride in making sure our customers are satisfied with the repair of their vehicles. Our waiting area is clean and comfortable with free Wi-Fi and refreshing beverages. So if you're in an accident, stop by and see us at Larry's Body Shop.
Do you feel like healthcare has become too impersonal?
3 times an hour, I'll get you in, I'll get you out.
At Lifetime Medical Center, you're more than a number. We get to know you, not just your medical issues. Dr. Alana Kent is board certified in family practice and offers same-day appointments. She and her staff treat conditions from minor to chronic issues. Lifetime Medical Center, convenient to Jasper and Blue Ridge.
This may sting a little.
Georgia Diamond is your source for diamonds in North Georgia.
In 1981, Reed Nicholson began selling tires out of an old barn in Mineral Bluff. Little did he know that he had just laid the groundwork for the most trusted names in automotive services in the Blue Ridge area. In 1997, Nicholson Tire Center became what it is today, holding the same values of faith, family, and great customer service. 2 locations to serve you, and the Blue Ridge location is currently expanding to offer fast service and the largest U-Haul provider in Georgia. Nicholson Tire Center, Blue Ridge, and Mineral Bluff.
It's been 4 generations of family ownership, tens of thousands of customers, and more Chevys than we'd ever be able to count. And more than 60 years later, when we say Days gets it done, we still mean it. With the North Georgia Mountain's lowest Chevy prices, a huge selection, and outstanding customer care. See Days Chevrolet in Jasper, and let's get it done. Days Chevrolet. Days gets it done. Find new roads.
Hey folks, we're back. I'm your host BKP, and we are at Circuit World here in Blue Ridge. Beautiful weekend upon us here. Come on up and visit us. You know, as I say, if you're coming out of Atlanta, come straight up 575, and don't stop till you get here. Humane Society of Blue Ridge.org. Humane Society of Blue Ridge. This is our pet of the week, Bailey Rena. How are you today? And tell us about Bailey.
Bailey is approximately 6 months old. She is. She looks like she might be a miniature pinscher, but she could have some Chihuahua and maybe some Dachshund in her. She's a mixed breed. She is so much fun. If you're into agility and you want to teach her agility, she is fast. She loves running outside. She loves playing. She gets all the toys. She passes by you with them, but she piles them in one spot, which is really nice. She will sit on the couch with you. She'll watch TV with you. She entertains herself and then comes back to you. She was a little nervous in the ride over here, so she cried a little bit, but that was it. That she'll get used to that once she rides in a car more. And she's approximately 9 or 10 pounds. She's going to remain small, so she's going to be a small dog. And just a lot of fun. I'm telling you, she is so much fun.
It's gone. Where'd it go?
She's very curious about everything. She was watching the workers here load the trucks and stuff, and even barked at a couple. But she's going to be a great companion for anyone who loves small dogs, because she is so wonderful. She walks well on a leash. I just can't say enough things about her.
You're gonna lose your teeth.
You gonna speak?
Hi, Bailey. Give kisses. Give pup kisses. Give her pup kisses.
She does give kisses.
Give her pup kisses. Give her pup kisses. I'll give it. If you give me pup kisses. No pup kisses? All right, here. So, you may have said this. How old is Bailey?
About 6 months.
About 6 months
Yeah,
old.
She's right about 6
Now,
months old.
she had a lot of brothers and sisters over there, right?
Yes, she did.
And how many puppies are left?
In this group, her.
Just
But
Bailey.
there is, yeah. We have 2 other puppies from a different group, and they're approximately 4 months old now, I think. We still have Dixie and Nico and Katrina, and the 2 puppies. I think Lacey might have a home. She had a good meet and greet. So, adoptions are going well. We have plenty of cats and kittens that are looking for their home. Can I turn you around so they can see your pretty face? There we go. Look at that pretty face. But I'm telling you, Bailey she is such a sweetheart. She's active. She's a puppy. She's pretty almost potty trained. I can't say she's completely potty trained. When you do get them in the house, puppy or not, you still have to get them in a routine at your house. So once you get them in a routine, what was that? Once you get them in a routine.
That was Lonnie over there.
That was Lonnie sneezing, huh? Once you get them in a routine and, you take them out so they can go to the bathroom, everything's fine. But I'm telling you, you would not be disappointed with this little girl. Oh, thank you. I got kisses. Oh, thank you. She gives kisses and she just plays. I can't say enough things about her. She is a lot of fun and makes me laugh. And in this day and age, that's what we need.
Well, Bailey, thank you for coming and cheering everybody up today. And you have done a great job. You just have. You're an exciting little puppy. And if you're looking for that puppy for your family, this is the little girl right here you want to check into. Plus, the Humane Society, don't forget, humanesociety.org and the Humane Society of Blue Ridge. Let me get this correct. Back up. Humane Society of Blue Ridge.org. You could find them on the web. They have pictures of all their dogs. They have the details on their adoption rules. They have all the details on their intake program and how they guarantee a disease-free dog when you adopt and take home.
And cats.
And cats. And cats. And they also have all the details on their foster to adopt. So when there's puppies and you want to foster a puppy to adopt, there's details on everything you have to do. The meet and greet. They always want you to come up and meet your new furry family friend. And if you have other pets in the house, let them know. Let the Humane Society of Blue Ridge know what the other pets are. Bring them up. They will go through the details of the meet and greet, what you need to do, and you come up and you see how well everybody gets along, because we like to find their forever home for our friends, our furry friends, our kittens, and our puppies, and our doggies out there. So if you're just looking for a companion dog, a family pet,
She'd be good with kids.
or another pet to add into the house, they will work with you to find your favorite furry forever. We're talking about you, Bailey. We're talking about we can find Bailey.
She's precious.
And we always like to make sure we say thank you to the Humane Society of Blue Ridge, volunteers and the employees out there, each and every one of you, and all the things you do. Anything else going on we need to let people know about?
Not that I know of.
Not that I know of.
No, just give us a call, 706-632-4357, and set up a meet and greet for person to dog, and then they'll set up a meet and greet if you have a dog, but they want you to come meet the dog first to make sure it's a good fit for you. And then we'll schedule a second appointment with your dog if you have one and we need to do a meet and greet. Obviously, we don't know how she would do with cats, but that is a learned lesson with no matter what dog you get.
Well, let me ask you a question. Good, put you on the spot. Now, I hear cats have all these different personalities.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Is there a way to tell early on if a kitty is going to be just a sweet, loving kitty or going to have a person?
Oh, yeah. If you come out to the Humane Society, we have cats in rooms. So there might be 4 cats in room 1, 5 cats in room 2, 6 cats in room 3. You sit in that room, and a cat that wants to be on your lap and wants all that loving is going to come to you, sit on your lap, and just enjoy your company. A cat that just wants to kind of like be independent isn't going to be quite that friendly. So you're going to see the different personalities sitting in that room. And if you come out and you say, I want a cat, but I don't know which one I want, can I just sit and see, which one talks to me? You can do that and see what cat comes up and just really steals your heart.
That's the fear I have, is the cat that wants to talk to me. That's my biggest fear in life, getting a cat that says, nobody's looking.
Yeah.
You bet. Sorry.
And we have some precious kittens, some precious
I know you
cats,
do. I know
adult
you do.
cats. Like I said,
I may need one. Let's leave it there, okay? I may need one. Anyhow, I'm your host, BKP. We've been at Circuit World this morning in Blue Ridge. This is the Humane Society of BlueRidge.org. Little programming note before we leave. There's nothing more enjoyable, well, to me, on a Saturday tomorrow than watching these little guys play football, and that is the Mountain Athletic Conference. The Mountain Athletic Conference Super Bowl is tomorrow right here on this network, FYNTV.com. You can tune in at 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. tomorrow night, nonstop. We will have the 6-year-olds, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11-year-olds, all the way through till we close tomorrow's annual Super Bowl over in, where are we going to be tomorrow, Lonnie? Gainesville, Chastity. Yes, we're going to be at Chastity High School, and we're looking forward to it, and it'll be a great day. Don't forget, the Mountain Athletic Conference Super Bowl from 6-year-olds to 11 all day long right here on this network. You're going to enjoy it. Bailey, we know you're going to find a home, and we know you're going to reach out to the Humane Society of Blue Ridge and say hello and adopt cats and dogs today. I'll be back Monday morning in the office, and we will see you. Have a great weekend. Come on up. It's beautiful. Take us out of here, Lonnie.